everybody. Welcome to the Suspense Squad, where authors interview authors. This month, we are very happy to have with us Cate Nolan, who writes for Love Inspired Suspense. Welcome, Cate. And was wondering if you could show us your cover and introduce your book and maybe read the back blurb for us.
Well, thank you so much for letting me have the chance to show off my book. Let's see if you can see it properly. Oops, the covers. So I have to say, when I sent in the title, it was Plain Texas Justice, so I'm still getting used to calling it Texas Witness Threat. So this is the back blurb. It says, she saw something she shouldn't have. Assistant U.S. Attorney Christine Davis is positive she witnessed a murder, but with no body, the police aren't convinced. Now someone wants her dead, and Texas Ranger Blake Larson is the only one who believes her. For Blake, protecting Christine must stay more important than their growing feelings for each other. But can he keep her safe from an unknown enemy who wants her silenced?
Very good.
Very nice.
Thank
I
you.
love that back blurb. That sounds really good.
I was happy with it.
All right. Well, as we normally do here, we've got some questions for you, just so that our listeners can get to know you a little bit better. So, Miss Loretta, why don't you go ahead and start?
All right. Well, congratulations on your book, Cate. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I would like for you to share about how you got your start.
How I got my start. Okay, well, it's been a long time coming, because I started writing about 30 years ago. And I have to say, back then, I got my start being totally dumb and naive. And I just wrote a book and sent it off to the Golden Heart. And it was a finalist. And I thought, oh, great, I've got it made. And we all know how that worked out. Anyway, then I went back to school for my education degree, and I had children, and so I didn't do anything for a long time. And then many years later, I stopped writing long historicals, which was what I was writing then. And Harlequin was running the Killer Voices contest. And I decided on a whim to enter it. And lo and behold, the book got a contract. I should say somewhere in between there, I made the decision to switch over and try my hand at inspirational fiction, because I had avoided it for a long time, feeling like I wasn't qualified to write about my faith. So when Harlequin came up with that, I said, okay, here's my chance. I'll give it a try. So,
That's exciting.
I
Hey,
love that.
tell us about the Killer Voices contest.
well, I mean, we all know that Harlequin loves to run these contests to encourage new authors. So back in 2014, they announced the search for a killer voice. And it started out in February, I think. And it was a great contest because there were all these steps along the way. So the first thing you had to do was, I think, send a first page. And then of all the hundreds that they got, they narrowed that down. And then the next round, you had to send a synopsis. And then I think at some point there were 3 chapters or something. And then if you made it through to the final round, then you got to send the full manuscript. And they bought initially, I think, 6, and then they bought some more after that. So I know I got my call in July, and I was asleep when Emily called. I was taking a nap on a summer afternoon, so I totally missed her call. So that's like my sale call, as I slept through it. So it's funny, the main thing I remember is at the end of our conversation, she said, so do you want to sell us your book? And I remember being dumbfounded, like, yeah, why not? So that's the story.
That's awesome.
Oh, I should say, and because, well, actually I've got it right here, because mine was a Christmas book, they held it. So it didn't come out until October of 2015.
We have a question from Shannon.
Hey, congratulations on your book. So excited
Thank
for you. Who's your favorite author and how did they inspire your writing?
Wow.
There's probably a lot, I know, but try to pick one.
Okay, well, I mean, generally speaking, anyone who ever wrote a book, right? Because I'm just inspired by the fact that they did it. And for a long time, I just thought people who did that were like super special people. But I think I'd have to go back and say Jerry West, because he wrote the Happy Hollister that made me a reader. I read them when I was in 3rd and 4th grade. And those were the books that made me love reading. So it was my love of reading over all those years that made me want to be a writer, because I'll always consider myself a reader first.
I think that's so
So
important. It's
I
very
think I have to give him credit, because my parents subscribed me to a book club, and the books would come in the mail once a month, and I would literally be standing on the doorstep waiting for them to arrive.
I love that.
There you go.
That's cool. Right, and we have a question from Sammy.
I wanted to know, what in your personal life is your favorite activity or favorite hobby, something that you just love to do?
Well, because I'm a teacher by day, writing sort of is my hobby, right? That's my release when I get home from teaching. I guess, wow. I mean, I feel like I've narrowed everything else down over the years to like, I'm either at work or I'm writing, or I mean, reading. As I said, it's always going to be reading. But my dog, I guess, is my other, because we rescued him for my daughter's birthday, and somehow he became my dog. And we've seen him through something like 7 surgeries at this point, and he's now lived about 6 years longer than they said he could possibly survive the last surgery. So he's my little buddy here. So I guess walking with him. Over the years, I've had other hobbies. I quilted for a while, I sewed a lot, but he's whimpering because he's hearing me say something other than him.
As you're talking about him.
Yeah.
It's okay to say nothing but reading and writing. That's an acceptable answer.
I mean, there's Candy Crush that when I'm procrastinating.
Writing takes about all your time anyway. There's no time for
Really does,
especially
yeah.
for a full-time teacher too.
Right. And if I'm not actually writing, I'm thinking about it. I mean, that's one of the things I always wonder, like, what do people think about if they don't have stories in their heads?
And you often tell yourself, oh, I finished this book, I'm going to take a break. And then the next thing you know, it's like you're thinking up the next story. So much for that break.
Yeah, well, it's usually like midway through. I mean, I'm sure you all have it when the shiny new idea comes along and you want to drop everything and work on that one instead.
My problem a lot of times is I've thought about it so much, I actually think I've actually written it. And it's like, I wrote that idea somewhere in this manuscript. And no, I didn't. I just thought about it.
But my favorite part, though, is when you come back to something you've written and you totally don't even remember writing it. It's like, I wrote that? That's pretty good, actually.
I am always curious about your characters. How are the male and the female like you, and how are they different? And how do you get to the where they are?
Okay, so the hero is nothing like me in this one. The heroine, I guess there's a part of me that once upon a time I planned to be a lawyer. That was my life goal until it was time to apply to law school, and I decided I really didn't like this thing, so I was not going to do it. But she's like me in one particular way. I mentioned earlier that she suffers from anxiety, and when she does, she has conversations with the Lord asking him to help her, and that's how I deal with it. So when something's not going right, and I'll just say, Jesus, help me trust in you, or I'll just like say it out loud or think it. And she does that. So that's a very strong part of me coming through in her character.
Right. And our final question tonight comes from Virginia.
Okay, well, welcome, Cate, and congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
My question is about your writing process. I have a crazy writing process myself, so I love to hear about how people put books together. Are you a pantser? Are you a plotter? Do you know everything that's going to happen? What's your process?
I call myself a mister because many, many years ago, I heard Joe Beverly give a speech at RWA in New Orleans, and she was talking about, she didn't like the term pantser, and she was talking about people who write into the mist because you can't see exactly what's coming next.
Ooh,
So I decided that was a much more glamorous term than pantser. So that's
I kind of like that.
I like that
But-
too.
my real answer is my writing process is just a mess. I tend to write really long. This was my binder.
Oh,
This
wow.
is what I didn't shred. Multiply this by about 7 is this book that's coming out now was 190,000 words at one point.
Oh my
I just
God.
started throwing words out.
How do you write that much?
Well, that's
I
what
want to know how you
happens
cut
when
it
you have the opening scene and you don't know where it's going from there, and you just
That's
keep
like
writing.
4 books in one. That's a
That's
series.
why it takes so long.
Yeah, that's a
That's
series.
amazing.
But with this one, I mean, I usually start off with the characters or a scene idea. When I started my first book, Christmas in Hiding, I knew I wanted it to be witness protection. And I had this idea that had come to me one day when I was doing the dishes. And I was standing at the sink and I could hear people outside somewhere down the block having a party in their backyard. And you know, that suspense writer mind, I started thinking, what if they suddenly all got sick? And the suspect was the one person on the block who didn't get invited.
Mm.
So I did a version of that for the page 1 of the Killer Voices contest. And I don't understand why they put it through, actually, because Emily hated the scene and she made me change it. But she let it go through all the way through. And every time she'd say, you got to change that first page. So ultimately I did. And of course, she being editor extraordinaire, it came out to be a much better opening scene. And that's sort of what happened with this one. I had a character from Christmas in Hiding who is not the nicest character in that book. She kind of puts my Callie through the ringer, and I knew I wanted to redeem her. And I was trying to think what it was. And I was thought, what if you had somebody who suffered from anxiety and then she witnessed a murder, but because she's known to have anxiety, no one believes her because they can't find the body. So they're just saying, oh, you know, you need a break. You're just overstressed. And then I had to figure out what happened next. But then I stumbled across this story idea that I just loved. I should backtrack a second and say I was meeting with my editor in Times Square, and we were talking about the appeal of Amish fiction. And after a week there, I was like, I totally get the appeal of Amish fiction. I mean, I live in New York City and I hate Times Square. So then I was talking to another writer friend who lives in Texas, and her editor wanted her to write Amish, and we were joking about Amish in Texas. So I decided to Google it. And I found out that there had been some settlements that had mostly failed. But then I found this wonderful story that just appealed to me, where after Hurricane Ike, a group of Amish youth, mainly from Indiana, came down to help rebuild and to rescue the animals and rebuild the houses and the fences and all. And I just started thinking, what if they liked it and stayed?
Mm.
So there is an Amish element in this book because that's where they have to go to solve the mystery, to figure out what's going on. So it's really just whatever idea sparks in my head, and that's why they end up being so long before I pare it back down.
I like the way your mind works. You know, oh, shiny object. Oh, shiny object. Let's do it.
Always.
Like Ginger's writing process.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
For
Ginger
sure, for
writes-
sure.
Yeah, Ginger writes scenes and then puts them together later.
Yeah, I never write in
Yeah.
order. It's whatever scene I get to, and then I just, okay, we'll stick this there. But the good part of that is when your editor comes back and
No. Linear.
No.
I only know linear for math. It doesn't exist in my writing world.
Mine either.
I sent Ginger my outline and she was like, that just gives me a headache.
I think she got the hives from that.
Yeah, I think she did.
Well, Cate, I think this concludes our interview. Your book, if you want to hold up the cover again,
Or we'll hide the
it
sleeve.
is available now on harlequin.com, but it will be available in ebook on January 1st.
Yes.
And when will the print be available?
Well, it's available for pre-order now, but it will be available on January 12th.
Great. And it will be available in Walmart and Barnes & Noble that I know of. And Darlene, where is it available in Canada?
Chapters Indigo.
Cool.
Oh,